Well, never mind. I talk about headline makers. Claire Muldoon and Kevin Schofield are here. We're all just gobsmacked. Anne's just announced she hasn't taken the Christmas decorations down.
No, I haven't. No, my tree's still up.
Is it real?
Yeah.
Is it a real one?
No.
It is not a real one, this one, no.
Why is it still up, Anne?
I've got a real one in the garden, in the pot, you know.
Has that still got the lights on?
No, because it blew over in the wind.
Right, OK.
I mean, it's a big tree in a very big, heavy pot, and it blew over in the wind.
Are you not a bit fed up going into the house and it's all decked out?
Oh, no, it's lovely.
Why is it still up, Anne? Is this a norm for you in the Diane's
it's a norm
house?
for me, yes.
Do you do this every year?
I keep them up until sort of Valentine's Day or something.
You're joking.
No.
Because it takes an awful lot of effort, doesn't it, to take
Do you really?
take it down. It's fun putting Christmas decorations up,
Yeah.
but it's not fun taking them
not.
back
It's like ripping off a plaster, though. You just got to
putting
do
them in
it.
a box and taking it up to the attic.
So we
and all
took
the rest of it.
ours down on New Year's Eve. And that felt great, actually, because you
Why?
started
What feels good
you
about
started
it?
the new year all fresh and clean.
Right. I think we were the 3rd of January, which is kind of average, really. I think, is it not the 6th? Is the
That's the 12th night.
I'm going to go
Yeah.
twinkling right through to the end of January, I reckon.
Wow.
Do you know the scary thing for me is after having it up since the 1st of December, go into the sitting room, stop at you, and then coming in, and then it's gone. You think, oh, what was there? You know, you just, it becomes then the norm for you not to have even had it there.
Yeah, and that's true.
Get it down, Anne.
That's true. Look, we were going to go through the front pages, but I'll tell you what, we're not going to bother because we're a little bit tight for time. We'll just chat on, I think.
Yes.
Kevin, let's have a look at the front of the mirror, should we, looking at these airstrikes.
Yeah, so new year, new war, and
Don't say that.
Well, it is.
It is, unfortunately. We are, well rehearsed yesterday, the airstrikes on Yemen and the Houthis in retaliation for the attacks on vessels in the Red Sea. But obviously there is now suggestions, or certainly the Houthis have said, you know, there will be retaliation, and the Mirror are reporting military experts saying that the terror threat against the UK, as well as obviously the US, will increase as a result. But I mean, I don't think that's a reason not, and that's a reason not to act, isn't it? And
no, but it is. I think a lot of people are a bit worried about.
No, it's a consideration.
The acts of terrorism, even on British soil. God forbid, but we could, as a result of this.
Yeah, but I mean, these airstrikes haven't come out of nowhere. You know, they are in response to what the Houthis have done to commercial vessels in the Red Sea, and military as well. Yeah, so it's pretty indiscriminate. Now, they have tried to say that this is linked to the war in Gaza between Hamas and Israel, but I think that's kind of been used as a bit of a pretext, really. It is, as I say, indiscriminate, these attacks on vessels in the Red Sea, and the knock-on implications for the global economy, so obviously it's a major shipping route, are huge. So I think something had to be done. But it's not just a case of, well, that's it dealt with. Clearly, this is unfortunately going to go on for quite some time, I think.
Yeah. Claire, can we have a look? I know Anne quite likes this story about the Queen's final hours. I don't know that I do.
Oh, it's lovely.
Because I sort of think, what, is nothing private?
Well, it's not a case of it's nothing private. This is still, I didn't realise this actually, but the Queen's dying moment is actually a public record.
Is it really?
It really is. So this memo had to be taken. So historically, for us to have it in our lifetime is quite a big deal. People might not think it is, but it actually is. So it was recorded by her private aide, her last living hours before she died, and she was apparently in no pain and it was very calm, and she actually had her red box in her room as well.
And she'd done the work.
That is a level of that woman's, you know, professionalism, her courage, her tenacity, her wisdom.
Tell us what was in the red box as well. Did you read that far?
There was 2 letters, one to her private aide who made the memo for historical matters. It's now in a vault, and a letter to her son. In terms of accession and succession, obviously passing on the premiership, the royal family name, the crown, basically to her son, which we don't know the contents of.
But before, the point is, I think, before she died, she tied up all the loose ends.
Well, of course she did. That was the measure of the woman, wasn't it, just? It really, really was.
Well, if it is a matter of public record, then fair enough. I'm glad we don't know the details of that letter to Charles.
Yes, yes, me too.
That needs to be...
Will that come out under the 30-year rule or something like that? Will that ever come out? Or is
I don't know. I wouldn't
doubt it.
I wouldn't think. I think that's pretty personal. I think there has to be a level of, you know, passing on the crown, but also passing something on to your son, which I would think I'd love it to be private.
And there's a fascinating detail as well when now King Charles had to ring William.
Yes.
You tell it.
So he had to go through the royal protocol of picking up the phone, and he couldn't say, "It's the king, it's me, the king," or "Your king." He just said, "It's me." So he couldn't use his royal assent.
Otherwise, that would have been telling everybody
Everyone
working the switchboard and everything
the Queen had already passed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Kevin, let's have a look at the... I mean, the post office scandal is the story that just never ends.
No.
Now, the Mirror reporting that there were 240 calls a day about the Horizon system.
Yeah, so they've spoken to a couple of people who are working these phone lines and dealing with these calls, which were clearly numerous because there was so many problems with the system. And one of the people that are not named said that they were receiving around 240 calls a day. I really felt for them. Some of them would cry on the phone. I mean, not surprisingly, really. But I mean, the whole thing was almost farcical. It says on one occasion the system showed £1 million was missing from one post office, which was far more than this post office ever handled.
And do you know what, Kevin? They never found the money.
Well,
they never found the missing money.
Well,
and you would think to
missing.
take someone to court, the post office took them to court, not the CPS, but you would have thought the burden of proof would have been at least the starting point where that money went.
If you've stolen the money,
there was no trail.
What have you done with it?
Well, that's what I was
But
thinking.
the money wasn't there.
Even
It
with
hadn't been
lesser
stolen.
sums that some people were accused of stealing,
Yes.
£36,000, or in one case, I think, £68,000.
Yeah.
How does a local little post office ever generate that much money to be stolen anyway?
Oh, quite. And
None of it made any sense.
no, it didn't make any sense. And it's one of those stories, I think, they cut through now, I mean, because of the drama, I guess, as much as anything, is astonishing. Every time you're in a group of people, inevitably, at the moment, I mean, last night, I noticed this myself, the conversation comes round to the post office and the sub-postmasters and sub-postmaster mistresses, the victims of this, because people just cannot believe the extent of it and how...
and I just think also, because these are people that we actually deal with, right, on a weekly basis, most of us are in the post office.
Yeah.
And you just think these are people whose lives were destroyed.
Absolutely.
And they're
absolutely.
salt
I'm
of the
so
earth.
cross about this.
They're the key part of their communities. And also, if there were these great criminal masterminds, why were they the ones phoning these helplines and saying, hang on a minute, there's something wrong here. Yeah. This money's gone missing. If they were stealing it, that's the last thing you would do, surely.
Yeah.
The other culprit in this is Fujitsu, in my view, who actually were the IT gurus who put the whole Horizon package together. They clearly didn't test the product legitimately enough or profoundly enough to make it good to go out to market. And I think that was paid by the public purse, don't forget. Yeah. The Royal Mail, it was a public entity. Adam Crozier has been very, very quiet as well on this. Yeah. There's lots of things I think really have to be addressed, no pun intended. But I'll tell you, I'm so cross with this. It's an absolute sad indictment in 21st century Britain that this has happened.
It's completely appalling.
It was 25 years.
Mm-hmm. And people have died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not knowing
people at the top have lied.
Yeah. Yes.
Again and again and again.
It must have become apparent relatively early in the process that there was a problem with this, and the decision was taken rather than address it, was to try and cover it up.
But even those memos to Tony Blair,
all the way back to then,
1998, before it even launched, were saying there appears to be some flaws in the system.
Yeah, and yet they still pushed on it ahead of it.
They pushed on, and then, of course, when it was all challenged, the Post Office is saying, no, there's no flaws.
They dumbed down.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think we need to make clear as well to the public is that the security services for the Royal Mail, i.e. like their law enforcers for their own things, they were actually incentivised by money, to go out and catch
and prosecute people. Yeah,
and prosecute them. They behaved like bailiffs.
And I'm now saying one of the guys giving evidence at the inquiry the other day, they basically said he didn't have the technical expertise to be able to sort of assess whether or not it was the computer system's fault.
But looking and listening to him, and we don't know the gentleman, and it's hard to assess. but he came across, let's just put it that way, he came across more as a bailiff. I sort of looked at him and said, well, I wouldn't expect you to have technical expertise because you seem like a bailiff.
Well, he didn't come across as a very sympathetic character, really.
No. The other odd thing is, and I don't understand the vagaries of the law in this, is that if you bring a prosecution against somebody, you have to go through the Crown Prosecution Service, but not the Post Office.
Not the Post
they could bring
Office.
these private prosecutions,
because, they were private prosecutions and yet they were criminal prosecutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
But why didn't Keir Starmer, who was head of the CPS at that point, right? Why did he not say in a statement, the CPS didn't bring these cases to court? It was the Royal Mail that brought these cases to court. Yeah. He didn't say that.
No, but he could also. He had the powers to take over those cases.
Did he?
He could have taken over those. Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
If you're the head of the CPS, you can take over those cases. He says he wasn't aware of all the cases.
Yes, that was the only release that I saw.
But surely, with all that was going on, he should have been aware.
Well, if there was memos going back to Blair, there's a Labour connection there. Yeah. Surely the communication would have been such, like,
and that's the thing.
Keep your eye
all
open.
the parties are...
Can I ask you about Ed Davey?
Yes.
Well, both of you on this one, because he gave an interview that aired yesterday in which he was asked, I don't know how many times, would not apologise.
10 times it was.
Would not apologise. Now, I cannot understand his mental attitude, frankly, as someone who is touting himself as a potential Prime Minister, who is mishandling this so badly.
He was Minister for the Post Office.
Post Office,
his
for, I think,
portfolio.
2 years, 2010 to 2012,
Who was his predecessor? Liz someone, who was also a politician and MP.
I'm not sure. I just wonder, having watched it, as extraordinary, and politically it does seem very weird. You think, as a politician, you must realise when you're saying this, people are going to be throwing things at the telly.
Yeah.
But I just wonder whether he spoke to a lawyer and a lawyer has said something along the lines of,
sorry.
Do not admit any sort of responsibility, do not apologise, because you could then become liable. I don't know, that's me just speculating.
And you can't say no
comment. It was very
either,
odd.
That is a comment.
It was jarring. He was given so many opportunities to say, I am sorry, but he wouldn't.
You could say you can say sorry without admitting responsibility.
Yeah, but he had his formal words, I deeply regret. I deeply regret. He kept saying that again and again and again, and it was baffling.
It was a non-apology apology, wasn't it? I deeply regret that this has happened.
Well, it was almost like he was trying to make himself out to be a victim because, the Post Office lied to me, which is true, but as a minister, surely you should challenge that and say, well, hang on a minute, there's all these prosecutions. Surely there's something wrong.
Well, look, on that note, we need to leave it. Kevin, Claire, see you a little bit later on. Let's have a look at the weather.